Canberra come into this match with only 2 wins out of 5, so it's essential the Raiders lift themselves in front of their home crowd. The return of Gary Belcher and second rower Nigel Gaffey is a welcome boost, but they're still down in firepower with Laurie Daly and Bradley Clyde on the injured list. Manly are in good form and in second place. They have the best defensive record in the premiership, and with Cliff Lyons back in the lineup, they have a more attacking look about them. Joining me at Bruce Stadium, Arthur Beetson and Johnny Peard for a match the Premiers desperately need to win. And here comes Mal Meninga, leading them out with Gary Belcher. Aren't they glad to have him back in the lineup? But quite a few new faces in the back line. You won't recognise the back line when you see the names come up. Belcher at fullback, Wood on one wing, Meninga alongside David Boyle in the centres with Jason Croker on the wing, Michael Twigg at 5'8", Ricky Stewart as the halfback. And the pack, Barnhill at lock, Coyne and Gaffey in the second row, Lazarus Walters and Todd the front row. The coach is Tim Sheens. And Manly on their way out. They're in foreign territory today, the Sea Eagles, a long way from the coast. Still a few supporters here, though. Ridge at fullback, Stokes on one wing, Lydiard on the other, with Ronson and O'Connor in the centres, Cliff Lyons at 5'8", Jeff Tuvey halfback, Hasler at lock forward, Robertson, Tony Iro in the second row, Hosking, Dunford and Bella the front rowers. The coach is Graham Lowe. Now, we have a change in this Canberra lineup, a late change. Mark Lowry is on the field. He was named as a fresh reserve. Number 40, Mark Lowry on the field. And Nigel Gaffey is on the bench, so a late decision from Canberra there. The referee today is Neil Armand. And it's always an eerie experience here when Canberra are losing because the crowd goes silent. I wonder whether they'll have plenty to cheer about today. The Raiders have really only won 3 of the 19 games between these two clubs since 1982. But of course Canberra are a much better side over the last couple of years. In fact, they've won the last 2 games. Frank Stokes gets play underway. High kick with the breeze. Manly have the assistance of a breeze in this first half. And Gary Belcher brings it back. Immediately runs into the first hit for some weeks. Barnhill driven backwards by Hasler. Gary Belcher hasn't played since the first round of the competition when Canberra met North Sydney and were beaten by them. Walters a dummy half. Lowry gets his first touch. Interesting decision by Tim Sheens to prefer to start with Lowry rather than Gaffey.
Not only that too, but he's elected to run into the breeze also, which is a policy that most coaches are accepting these days.
Well, a great kick from Ricky Stewart to start proceedings. He has the ball on a string.
He needs the breeze.
He's certainly got plenty of distance with this kick, and look at the accuracy. Landed just inside the line. Took the bounce. Nothing Matthew Ridge could do. Ball's hanging around in the scrum. Plenty of weight from both packs. The scrum was screwing around. Referee Armand has found fault with Canberra. One of the last off the deck was Todd.
Well, it's an interesting decision there because the Canberra did try to twist that scrum, but the last man up was Des Hasler.
Yes, Todd was one of the last up, but as I agree with you, I thought Manly were the last off the deck, and that usually is an indication that they collapsed it. Here's Hosking off the tap. Bella. In the early games, a win to Canberra in the under-21s. They came from behind to defeat Manly 30-26. Here's O'Connor bursting through, only 10 metres out from the line, O'Connor. Pulled down, just 5 metres out by Lazarus. Manly with an early chance. Iro winds back to the blind side. Through one tackle, still going is Iro. The ball thrown back inside, but he had gone into touch. Iro burst through a fairly weak attempted tackle there.
Well, there certainly was. They cut back the blind here, and Iro already showing what a force he's going to be in the second. That's a high attempt there by Todd, but over the top comes Steve Walters and the help there of Big Mel.
That was a poor tackle by Brent Todd. If anyone, a front rower, should have made a better hit than that. Just really just hung his arm out, 5 metres out from his own line.
They may have tipped their hand, Warren. That was the second instance of cutting it back across the back of a ruck. O'Connor did it on the 3rd play after the tap, and then Iro did it on the 4th.
Yes, they may feel that's where the weakness is. And in reserve grade today, well, look at the score. A rout to Canberra, 58-2. As Johnny Pearce said, Canberra declared at full time. The Raiders back on their own 22 at Barnhill, running into Roberts. Cliff Lyons at marker. First starting lineup performance for Manly of the season. And Stewart's kick is out on the full. The kick out on the full. So the scrum will pack back towards the Canberra 22.
If you have a look there, great pressure there by Matty Dunford. It's forced him to find too much.
Dunford is starting to run into forms. He came into the side for David O'Donnell, very much a replacement hooker, but he's starting to hold on to that first grade spot.
Well, he'll find it very hard to get his position back, David O'Donnell.
20 metres out. Roberts to play it. Right leg heavily bandaged. Hosking switches back to Tuvey. They keep coming to the open. Tuvey going himself. Heavy tackle coming in. Referee Ahmed is going to call a Canberra player out. And is it Michael Twigg? No, it's David Barnhill. Or both of them.
Well, we'll have a look on replay. And it looked like it was a springing arm there from Lowry, but I think it was from David Barnhill coming up from behind. So he's pinched two players here, also Twigg. So
well, he's picked out Twigg and Barnhill, and he could well have had Lowry over there as well. Little Jeff Tuvey getting a workout here.
We have a look here. Here comes Lowry, number 40 here. Going, and Barnhill coming over the top with a swinging arm, and here's another swinging arm which he collects Barnhill, so that was fair justice.
Well, do you think that before the game they may have decided Jeff Tuvey is a danger man? They've just about taken him out of the game as best they could there.
Well, that almost warranted 10 in the sin bin.
Absolutely. Look of concentration on the face of Graham Lowe. He knows this is going to be a tough game. That was an indication, that penalty.
And he knows that Tuve can look after himself in his rightful position at halfback now.
Matthew Ridge, a head wound last week against St George. He's okay though, but does have a few stitches, 12 stitches in his scalp. And he hits this well. Ridge continuing his superb kicking record. This season he has now kicked 13 goals from 15 attempts. Tim Sheen's equally concerned. Similar look on his face to Graham Lowe's. Very intent on this match for Stokes. Stokes stepping well. Good run. Pulled down by Twigg.
Well, there's the missed tackles there by Canberra. Timmy Sheen certainly wouldn't be happy with that error count.
Martin Bella's getting through plenty of work early. No nonsense stuff, taking it up, and so is Hosking. And he gets a big dipper there from Walters. Steve Walters is a powerful man, not all that tall, plenty of muscle. Hasler runs into trouble.
Well, that's much better defence from Canberra. They're putting pressure on the Manly offence.
Ridge has to switch it over to Lyons, and Lyons is under no pressure. There were two men on top of Ridge. Belcher takes it well, has Wood with him. Nowhere to go. Good chase from Manly. Four men down there. They can't afford to give Gary Belcher any room. Belcher coming back from knee ligament damage. Be hard to expect him to be at his brilliant best today. Twigg almost meets the shoulder of Ian Roberts.
The top defensive Steve Waller's already leading the charge for Canberra, and Big Marty surprisingly leading the total count for Manly.
Penalty to Canberra. Once more the ball has been raked out.
Well, this is a trait in Manly. They do try to strip you of the ball. They got the ball back inside Canberra's 22 about 5 minutes ago, and once again they concede a penalty there on this occasion.
Tony Iro had no intention other than to try and steal the ball. The referees have been told to crack down on hands in the play the ball. Players trying to rake the ball out, trying to slow the play the balls down. Lazarus, as the crowd comes alive, the Raiders get into Manly's 22 with the ball for the first time. Stewart, Todd, Twigg on the burst, launches himself at the defence. Hasler held on with Tuvey. 11 metres out. Stewart, Belcher up in the line. Tried to get it out to Wood, but realised he was marked. Lowry. He's knocked over 15 metres out.
The referee, the Manly defence not going back with the referee.
Stewart looking wide, couldn't pick up the runner. Wasn't able to use Meninga. Couldn't get it out to Boyle. Meninga on the blind side. Little kick through for Croker. But just finding touch. No, it's gone dead in goal, in fact.
Yeah, Big Mel would have been advised to put this high in the air as he goes down the short blind, trying to put a little chip into the in-goal area, but I think he would have been...
Must have gone out on the full here.
It did go out on the full here, so it was a turnover.
Yep, out on the full, so, as you say, back for the turnover. Bella. Through one tackle. Tuvey picks it up. Stokes is off.
He's such a strong little player. He possesses a great handle.
Iro. Tony Iro. Very rangy character. Had his arms free. O'Connor. O'Connor, they're coming in waves from the blind side to the open side now. Lions, another rebound. This goes out on the full. So the referee will come back to where the ball came off the Canberra player.
And of course, the head and the feed here goes to Manly here. And how Canberra wish they had him playing.
Yes, Laurie Daly should be back fairly soon from a fractured cheekbone. The sooner the better for Canberra and for New South Wales. Origin games not far off. City Country teams to be selected on Sunday night. And those City Country games coming up next Thursday, Anzac Day. Lions. Roberts nailed by Todd. Well, if Todd missed a tackle earlier, he certainly nailed him that time.
Great ball and all tackle.
Lions holds it up for Tuvey. Tuvey looking for support, gets it away to O'Connor. O'Connor steps through one tackle, and O'Connor comes around to score the try. Great hands once more from Manly. 6 points to 0, they lead. All started in close. Manly attacking from just outside the 22. Lions dummying, then slips it to Tuvey, gets halfway through the tackle, flicks it up in O'Connor's hands. Just superb to pull that ball in at full pace. A ball way above his head, and he's managed to bring it in.
We see Cliff just drifting across, commits two players here. Barnhill's one of them, and we'll just see him commit two. Ricky Stewart, and just picking that ball out to Tuvey there. And this is a great pickup here by Michael O'Connor here as he steps Gary Belcher. Gary had a shot at him there, and maybe he heard and missing that tackle.
Well, you can see Gary Belcher's reaction. He thumped his head down onto the ground in disappointment at missing that tackle.
Yeah, but good work there by Connor, first of all, for plucking that ball out there.
Absolutely. He was quite entitled to drop that pass. Well, Ridge should have little trouble with this. It's just to the left of the posts. Moves into it, hits it well. 2 more points to Manly, and they lead by 8 points to 0. Classical try.
Well, switches behind the ruck have been a Manly trademark here. Lyons transfers himself to the opposite side of the ruck, then one of his crossfield sorties, dummies inside, and picks up Tuve, who commits the Canberra centre, but that's the hands that did it, and the footwork. Michael O'Connor back to the form that made him one of our best ever.
Michael O'Connor was saying he prefers to step off his left foot, but we saw last week in that try against St George him stepping off his right foot. He really can go off either foot. That time it was the left that left Gary Belcher grasping.
Well, you can excuse Gary Belcher, I suppose, for missing that tackle, because, you know, when he's coming at you and you're one out.
Lyons breaks away, looks for support, he's got Iro. Meninga drags him down. Canberra's defence in tatters at the moment. They're still getting back on side. Lyons sorties down the blind, slips it away. Ridge can't get his hands on it, so it all comes to nothing.
And Graham Lowe there ruining that chance. There was a missed opportunity here, and Cliff Lyons can do this. He can be your best and your worst player. If you have a look there, just trying to hold that pass up for Matthew Ridge, with that going over the sideline.
Well, it was only moments ago that he was the best, because it was a beautiful ball he gave away to Tuvey. Had men running on the angle as he loves to, dumbing inside and outside. That led to the try. Here's Twigg. Got a bit of size about him, Michael Twigg, at 5'8". Todd. Barnhill. Gary Coyne. Coyne, one of the players trying to impress the opposition coach, looking towards State of Origin honours, because Graham Lowe will be coaching Queensland. Here's Twigg. Gary Coyne and Steve Walters will be trying to impress Graham Lowe. It's the last tackle. Stewart's kick could be a little deep, and he's not too happy about it. He realises that he should know this ground a little better than that. Gave it too much oomph.
Yeah, having a look at that there, I thought that had been better advised once again, putting up the high ball and maybe testing Matthew Ridge out.
The direction of the kick was lacking because the in-goal areas are very deep here. But, that was too far over towards the corner.
Well, Timmy Sheens would be spewing with the zero count, 13-1. Of course, Graham Lowe would be very happy with his side.
Manly swing it wide out to Tuvey in space. He runs away from Twigg. Looking on the inside, he has support. Still going Tuvey. Finally, Ricky Stewart gets across. Once more, Manly deep, well spread. On the attack they go. Bad pass comes out to Lyons. He's still going. Gets it away to Lydiard. Lydiard tries to step Belcher. He had him on the wrong foot. 9 metres out. Manly hungry for another try. Ronson has it. Ronson stepping. On it goes to Ridge for the corner, and he has scored. The Canberra defence is being cut to ribbons here. The Manly attacking machine hasn't been in evidence that much this season, but those 2 tries show you what they're capable of. Great attack here.
There's certainly an element of luck here. As the ball comes off, could have only been a knock on, but Ronson there flipping a ball out, twisting and turning and getting that ball under Matthew Ridge, who was virtually unopposed.
An element of luck in the last play, but the lead-up was very skillful. The bouncing ball picked up by Ronson. The pass goes behind Lyons. Meninga had come in to take Lyons, and that left the gate open for Ridge.
We have a look here too. Brent Tudd, once again guilty of not locking up the man with the ball. He comes in here. He tries to take Ronson high, but he passes that ball out to Matty Ridge, and there should have been defence there on Matthew Ridge.
Ridge doesn't score as many tries as he kicks goals. 86 points from just 9 games joining Manly last year. Well, they're somewhat shell-shocked. They've come out really trying to be aggressive today in defence. They tried to rattle Manly. That was the old-style formula for beating a Manly side, but it hasn't worked for them. And Sheens knows that his side are in trouble. Ridge has got 2 out of 2, but this is by far the most difficult. Just inches in from touch. The breeze has pretty much dropped. It's an acute angle. How good is Matthew Ridge? This is another superb kick from Ridge. This man just doesn't miss. Just simply doesn't miss. Manly lead Canberra 14-0.
This is a great kick here. A la Grant Fox of the All Blacks in New Zealand. Superb kick by the Iceberg, Matthew Ridge.
Manly inside their own 22. Roberts gets it back to Dunford. Lydiard. Hasler in a dummy half. Lyons gets it out to Bella, who is standing flat-footed. Ridge back on his 22. Todd tries to get to him. Bouncing around for Croker, who hasn't seen a lot of the ball yet. Jason Croker in the side.
Young player from Crookwell, Warren, Jason Croker.
And they believe that he is a very good player. He's managed to keep Brett Mullins in reserve grade, and Mullins played well the other week.
That's around the old Doogie Crow territory. Is that potato picking country?
I think so, Arthur. You'd know. You've eaten enough of them.
Stewart inside to Coyne. Walters links up. Gaffey, Meninga, Belcher in the line. Out it goes to Croker. That was good hands. More reminiscent of the old Raiders. Last tackle. Meninga swings it out to Stewart. Places the kick in. Good looking kick this time from Stewart. It's going to cause trouble. Hits the corner post. Just an inch too far because it comes back to the 22 for the tap.
Well, when you're looking for a break, it never seems to happen, but this ball just hoping to lay it in the in-goal area, but it just takes the flag post or the corner post, and a 22 tap ensues.
That's normally a good play, Arthur, but I agree with you. I think they should stick it in the air. They've got to put some pressure on Manly. Manly's got the speed down the flanks to cover kicks like that.
They swing it wide here. Quickly it goes out to Iro, standing in the centres. Inside is Hasler. Hasler coming through to Belcher. Gets it out to O'Connor. He hangs on to it. Pushes away. David Ronson for the line. Chased by Wood. He got there. Trainer Ronson. Superb attacking football from Manly. One into the field or the other. The pace, the passing, the backup was all there. Breaking from their own side of halfway. Just some fantastic football. From 60 metres out, they swing it wide. Iro running off Lyons. Inside was Hasler, hunting down the centre. Hasler coming to Belcher, slipped it away to O'Connor, manages to hang on, and the last-ditch tackle from Wood wasn't enough to stop Ronson planting it for a four-pointer.
Well, this ball goes out here. David Boyle should have came in on Iro here. If we have a look, he gets no one. With a short ball, he's out wide there, and there's a yawning gap there. Comes to Ricky Stewart, offloads a short pass to Hasler. And once again, David Boyle coming in here. Not making the tackle, but tries to get Michael O'Connor as O'Connor slips that ball out, and Ronson just close enough to the line to struggle over.
Good try by David Ronson. The in-goal judge had a good view of it. There was no doubt at all for the referee or the judge. Ronson graded back in 1983 at the age of 16 for Manly. Ridge adds 2 more points. It's becoming embarrassing. It's 20 points to 0 in favour of Manly.
Yeah, this is some classic play from Manly. Roberts out to Tuvey, and there's the master at holding the ball up. Boyle didn't quite read it properly. Ricky Stewart had problems with Iro, and here comes the speed. Desi Hasler, and of course Michael O'Connor. Great camera work from the ABC, and Ronson over to score a great try.
And the kickoff has gone dead in goal, and that will be a dropout from between the posts. So at last Canberra get a break. They've managed to get the ball past the fullback. Good kick from Mal Meninga, driving it deep. Ridge was unable to get across and cover it. He found the hole, and so that's a goal line dropout. Down it goes to Belcher. Belcher still meets this solid Manly defence, and that is certainly one difference. The Manly defence has been solid. It hasn't really been tested, whereas Canberra, well, they have missed tackles. They've slipped off tackles that had to be made.
Chris White on the field, 43, and Iro returns to the wing in place of David Lydiard.
Is Lydiard injured, or is that an interchange, John?
Interchange, I think that's number 2.
Here's Twig working wide. Of course, the rule changed this week. Only 6 interchanges per team allowed now, not unlimited. But 2 fresh players and 2 players who have played in reserve grade make up the 4 interchange players. Awkward kick bouncing, evaded White, but Ridge covered it up beautifully, as he always seems to manage.
Yeah, once again, Canberra persisting with these tactics of putting the ball in behind the line. They're better off, as I said before, putting the ball up in the air.
Here's Chris White now. He and Owen Cunningham are the fresh reserves for Manly. And they would feel a little unlucky because they've been playing very well in a winning team. But with Lyons coming back into the side and Iro shuffled into the forwards, they've missed out as far as starters today. Lyons looks wide. Tuvey's through once more. Has support. Hasler streaking downfield. Has O'Connor with him. O'Connor will race away for the try. Belcher couldn't stop them. O'Connor comes along for his second try. Manly are ripping Canberra apart here. The defence up front. Lyons is making a mockery of the defence. It's the 3rd or 4th time he's put Tuvey into a gap. O'Connor nods in appreciation, but look at the work from Cliff Lyons here.
The ball goes wide. Cliff holding this pass up and gets in between Mal and Gary Coyne out there, but he gives up, draws the defence past to Hasler, who draws Gary Belcher, and out to Snoz O'Connor. He puts the ball underneath the post, but once again, the defence lacking out wide. They had too many numbers there.
2 tries in 3 minutes. as it's moved wide. And look at Lyons hold this ball up. He just draws the defence. Meninga was committed to go wide. He didn't really know what Lyons was going to do. In fact, well, you can say Meninga made the mistake. It put Tuvey through. Look at the cool thinking of Hasler. Drew Belcher sends O'Connor away. And Michael O'Connor's having a great couple of games as Ridge adds the extras. The scoreboard reads 26 points to 0. It's not half-time. There's still 4 minutes remaining to the break. We thought this was going to be a tight contest. We knew that Canberra had to fire.
Manly playing havoc with the adjustments in the Cronulla outside backs. He's Coyne trying to cover. He starts to slide. Tuvey goes into a yawning gap after the Master put him through. And here's the speed again. Hasler this time outside to O'Connor. And he finishes off for his second try. 26-0.
Lyons dumming, finally gets it to Dunford. Lyons has made a major impact. When you look at the points scored last season, Canberra in total, in attack, 532 points, Manly 395, but it's not the story this year. Lyons playing with them. O'Connor has support in Dunford. Changes the angle to Ridge. Ridge sprinting down the touchline. There'll be another Manly try before half-time. Across comes Barnhill to cut off the route to the post. But the simplest of tries. This defence is pathetic from Canberra. But give credit to the attack of Manly. They're turning them inside out. The backing up, the change of the angle is just wondrous. Look at this work down the blind here.
Well, we see Frank Stokes just popping that ball out to Cliff Lyons, but laying off there, Croker. But have a look at this. Some beautiful balls here. And Matthew Ridge changing the point of the attack and goes in for his double. There's Desi there pointing the way. Get over, make it easy for yourself, boys.
They hit it down this blind side. They seem to be always picking the right side to attack. There's Boyle trying to get hold of Stokes. He slips a beautiful ball out the back to Lyons. Lyons changes the angle with O'Connor. On it goes to Dunford. He swivels beautifully, and Ridge had seen the hole on the blind side there. Down the touchline he goes. That was just superb football from Manly. More credit to the attack than criticism of the defence.
That's a third try in 8 minutes. And already they look like scoring half their total that they've chalked up in the previous 5 games.
Not many teams reached 30 points by half-time. Manly have already done it with a chance to add 2 more. Meninga laying down the law behind the posts. Ridge hasn't missed yet. 5 from 5. Can he make it 6? The touch judges are getting tired arms from lifting those flags for Ridge. And the half-time siren has sounded. Well, what can Tim Sheen say to his team at half-time? It's 5 tries to 0. It's 32 points to 0. Graham Lowe will be happy. Tim Sheens will be shocked, as are the Raiders. They're down by 32 points. Well, who would have predicted that? All Manly in the first half. In fact, Canberra only really attacked once in Manly's space in that half. Let's see if the statistics tell the story. The scrums, 3-2 to Manly, no tight heads. The penalties, 5-4 to Canberra. But look at the error count. 24 errors by Canberra, most of those missed tackles. And overall tackles, well, Canberra have had to do more work than Manly. The metres gained, Canberra 622, Manly 1,063, totally dominant the Sea Eagles, and time in possession 15 minutes for Canberra, 24 for Manly. Cliff Lyons has certainly made an impact for Manly's attack, and well, for Canberra, Tim Sheens is going to have to give some half-time talk to work miracles in the second half. Second half underway from the boot of Mal Meninga. It'll be interesting to see if there's any positional changes for Canberra. Obviously, the experiments with some of the young players, not to necessarily pick on any one of them, but in the Canberra backline, they wouldn't appear to have worked because the Manly backs have been running riot. You can certainly see, well, Twiggs out in the field, Boyle's out on the field. Obviously, Meninga and Belcher are still there, so there don't appear to be any changes, Johnny Peart.
No, Warren, same team to take the field that came off prior to the break, but Tim Sheens obviously has appealed for a bit of pride, but also he's concerned about those adjustments and the defensive lapses out wide. Graham Lowe in the Manly room, Well, he's going to guard against complacency. Pretty pleased with the score, but he'd like to see them go on with it.
Ridge switches play across to Lyons. They've got 2 kickers as options in this match, and they've been using them well. Bringing the ball back there is Croker, who looks quite a lot like Corkery, Matthew Corkery, who used to play on the wing for Canberra. Meninga. The defence is up.
Well, the Canberra fans cheered their team onto the field, Warren, and they booed them off at half-time, so they're a fair indication.
Yes, the fans are fickle when you're losing, particularly when you're down by that scoreline. Stewart dummying. Can't get through the tackle of Hasler. Talked about the battle of the halfbacks, Tuvey and Hasler, looking towards the New South Wales halfback spot. Of course, there's also Greg Alexander, who's been putting together some fine games at halfback, so there's plenty of pressure on Ricky Stewart. Stewart now. Out it goes to Twig. Meninga bursting forward. Nowhere to go.
He's certainly bottled Big Mel up this afternoon.
It's the last tackle. Stewart puts it high. There's a change of tactics. Coming down for Ridge. Pressure on him too. Croker makes the tackle. They didn't quite get to him in time to really worry Ridge, but mind you, there were 2 or 3 coming through on him.
Well, if he hadn't made the mistake, they were certainly there. So it's still a little bit of pressure, knowing that this kick was reasonably high. Could have been just a shade higher.
He wasn't forced to leave the ground to take it. But in the first half, you wanted Canberra to put a few bombs up rather than kicking along the ground.
Well, I think they've got to do that, but they've got to have more chases. Warren, I'd like to say a cheerio to Ripper Doyle, who was a 56 tourist. He's recuperating in hospital at the Prince Alfred Hospital in Brisbane after having a leg amputated. So, an old card-playing mate of mine, Ripper, I hope you get well soon.
Come back and bring your money with you.
As Stokes puts up a left footer and Stewart takes it well. Leapt in front of Tuvey that time. Wood from dummy half. Boyle. David Boyle has the same name as the South Sydney front rower. I think that's where the connections end. Gaffey running wide.
I think he's the son of Les Boyle, former Newdown forward.
Now it's with Barnhill.
It makes you wonder whether Gary Belcher's 100%. He's been acting virtually as a pivot, John.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite up to it yet. Takes a while, those knee injuries. Even Gaffey's a little bit below the normally good form we expect from him.
Better football here from Canberra. They're keeping the ball alive. It's the last tackle. Stewart's having to dance on the last to get his kick in. Manages to do it, but it's Ridge taking it on the full in the in goal, and that shows the pressure was on Stewart. Didn't allow him to make a good kick, and so the pressure relieved as they come back to the 22.
There's certainly good pressure there if you have a look, but the kick once again wasn't high enough from Ricky Stewart.
Look, he can bring rain if he wants to, and that's, I think, what he's got to do, Arthur.
Iro with a burst. Tuvey.
Top defensive players for Canberra. Steve Walters doing what he does best, along with Brett Todd and Glenn Lazarus, the Canberra front row. For Manly, Desi Hasler leading the count there, which he always does.
A good effort from Tony Iro, second highest in the tackle count, coming from the wing into the forwards. He's getting through a bit of work in defence.
And also Big Marty there leading the charge also.
Lyons decides to run, pops a little kick through, goes to Gaffey. Lyons is limping back. He's not running freely as he goes back into defence.
He might have just cooled down after half-time.
Meninga got from behind by Hasler, got it away to Belcher. Meninga almost stormed right through. Stewart swings it out to Twig. They keep it going. Boyle with a little bit of room to move. Good tackle by Tuvey and Iro. Lazarus around his ankles was Tuvey. Great tackle from the half.
Well, that's the way to chop down the tall timber.
Belcher's in real trouble, Warren. I wouldn't be surprised if he's replaced shortly.
Walters offloads well. Boyle. Steve Walters is doing some good work at the moment for the Raiders. He's involved in everything, running hard, getting some passes away. Twig goes to the line. Now he's in trouble. Stewart has it. Todd. This is desperation from Canberra, but they're moving the ball. Belcher. The defence from Manly is just as good so far. Meninga with a long pass. Gaffey. Hasler on his back. And that is the last tackle.
Well, Canberra had to keep the ball alive there, but good defence once again from Manly there as they hunted up in the last tackle.
Gary Belcher leaving the field. That's a blow.
Scotty Gale coming on.
If it's the same injury, that means a real setback for Canberra, one they can't afford. Manly are confident. They're throwing it around, and here goes Hasler again. What a game he's having. He's got support. Out to Ronson. This is a race. 30 metres out. Craig giving chase. Ronson will make it. Ronson sprawls over for the try. Well, it's been Manly attacking from their own side of halfway all day long. And every time they make a break, they convert it. Des Hasler has been involved in nearly every try. Here it goes from their own 22. Lions inside to O'Connor on the angle. This angle constantly turning the defence inside out. The pivot from Hasler. Look at the speed of Des Hasler. He hasn't lost any over the few years. It goes out to Ronson. Ronson chased by Jason Croker, but he simply can't haul him in. And Ronson over for the try.
If we have a look here in back play, we have a look at Cliff Lyons. He gets clipped in back play here. We might hear more about this. Cliff drifts across. And we have a look here. The ball comes back to Hasler, up the middle, steps Barron, Nigel Gaffey there, straight up the middle, draws the defence and puts Ronson away, and Ronson outspeeds the chase of Croker there, just scrambles over. Just tries to ankle tap him there.
And an amazing statistic is that all the Manly points have been scored by only 3 players. Matthew Ridge, David Ronson and Michael O'Connor. Ridge, 20 metres to the right of the posts. Look at the concentration, the eyes just staring at those uprights. He's got another one. Ridge hasn't missed today. He's just planting them. 7 out of 7. It's 38-0.
Here's another example of Manly's professionalism and touch with the ball as they switch the play. Cliffy Lyons takes a couple with him. Back to O'Connor. Long ball to Desi Hasler. He finds he's back in the ruck area where a couple of forwards are lingering. Too much speed for them. And, of course, Ronson there in support. Dive over for his second try.
Belcher with ice on his right knee. It's not a good sign. Good run from Scott Gale. He's showing some determination. Boyle. That blindside's fairly narrow.
There's some missed tackles there for 28. They're certainly doing some from tackling practice on Tuesday night, Warren.
Glenn Lazarus with a stronger run. There are some signs of a revival here from Canberra, but Manly haven't slackened off. Meninga. Gale leaping. Barnhill. Canberra have been stung into a better effort. It's the last tackle. Stewart decides to kick. Ridge perfectly positioned. Returns the kick and is going to give chase himself this time. Lazarus is back there, but the kick has found touch. It might have been interesting if the ball had stayed in play. It was Matthew Ridge versus Glenn Lazarus.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the returning the kick, and the only man back there was a front row forward, Glenn Lazarus. So one wonders what he was doing back there.
And I wouldn't mind betting that Ridge did intend that kick to stay in play rather than find touch. He'd only really gained 20 metres with the kick in the end.
He was chasing with a lot of enthusiasm.
And that just shows what a good thinker of the game, reader of the play is. He realised there was no fullback or winger in position back there.
I think the difference between these two sides today has a lot to do with their enthusiasm.
Well, I disagree with you in one sense that I think Canberra came out enthusiastic, but I think that they were outplayed early on by the attackers.
Oh. I think he might go here. The referee has sent Martin Bella straight off. Poor old Marty comes up. Have a look here and back, but look.
Oh, Brent Todd certainly copped a high one. There's no risk, and it's a fair decision by the referee. And really inexplicable from Bella. Why?
Well, there's a couple of reasons too. No reason for that. But I'm sure that Graham Lowe, apart from the fact that he's an integral part of Manly's team, but more importantly, Queensland can't do without Martin Bella. So we're hoping that...
I bet you Martin Bella is asking himself, why did I do that? And he's going to sit in the... or is he? He's just having a couple of words with someone in the crowd there. Or was it the coach?
And to Brent Cott's credit there, he's gone straight up, so he obviously wasn't all that hurt.
It just seems inexplicable that Bella, there was no reason, it wasn't a reflex.
Well, it's not in his makeup, is he? He's not a player who goes out and concedes a lot of penalties, so if you put it down to reflex...
Referee Arthur showed his inexperience again. He waved him straight off.
Well, you don't agree?
Well, I think it was a bad one. But he can always give him 10 and report him to the league and let them make the decision.
Well,
smacks of inexperience, although I agree it was a very bad one.
It was a fairly clear one, I thought. Here's Canberra with a chance, only 5 metres out. It's Lazarus. Manly down to 12 men. Lazarus a metre out. The play the ball was interfered with. Stewart going himself, and he's gone over. Well, full marks to Ricky Stewart. He's come out after half-time. He has tried to lift his side. He's certainly given it everything he's had, and he's forced his way over the line. Good work, Ricky Stewart. It's only one try for Canberra. They're not going to win today, but it's 38 points to 4.
We said here, first of all, Glenn Lazarus made a charging run there. Ricky Stewart shapes the pass. Spins out of a tackle there by Hosking. Desi Hasler fails to get a piece of him. Chris White, he slips out of Chris White's tackle and plants that ball alongside the upright.
Well, the defence should have been tougher here, but you can't take it away from Stewart. He's danced out of one tackle, spinning. This is determination. He crunches out of that tackle and falls over the line. And the try has been converted. Meninga putting it over. It's 38 points to 6. And Manly will not want to slacken off here. They're down to 12 men, and there's still 20 minutes remaining. Their morale may be just a little shocked as well by losing Martin Bella. It certainly knocked their momentum around. And that try has dented it. Here's Wood. The thing about the performance of Canberra today, you might say their defence has looked very ordinary, but it's just typical of their season so far. Even though they're in the middle of the ladder coming into this game, they have the second best attack in the league and only the 12th best defence, a poor defensive record before today.
I think the majority of those points were scored against South Sydney.
The Raiders swing it wide. Out it goes to Meninga. Popping the kick through for Croker. Croker could keep it on the toe. Ridge slipped over. Lydiard manages to cover up the situation. You get the impression that this last 20 minutes might not be very comfortable for Manly.
Well, they're down to 12 men there, but he'll utilise the interchange.
14,000 people here at Bruce Stadium today, and most of them are going to be disappointed at the result. White. Hasler slipping as he tried to cut back through the forwards. Must be feeling fairly confident, Des Hasler, that he can take on the Canberra forwards and step through them. O'Connor, no winger with him. 10 metres inside Canberra's half. Hosking was flat-footed. Slow play, the ball held him up. Couldn't time his run. Lions one off the ruck on the last tackle. Bounces off Coyne. In the end, the kick gained 20 metres by the time Coyne was able to get back to it. All the replacements warming up on the touchlines for Manly there. Owen Cunningham, one of them.
Glenn Bourne, the other. It's the first time we've seen Glenn Bourne. You remember back.
Stewart leaves it behind. Todd picks it up. 6 more tackles signalled. Wood tries to get outside Stokes. Wood suddenly hitting the deck, realised that he might go near that touchline. Gaffey trying to hold the ball up. In fact, it's Twig, but the referee, no. The penalty has gone to Canberra.
Yeah, one of the players, Nigel Gaffey, held back here. We watch it in back play here. We haven't got it on replay, yes. Taking the ball up here, selling the dummy Twig. But we have a look at on the left here as he's tackled without the ball there, Nigel Gaffey.
Might have been Tony Iro coming over the top. Penalty 7-5 to Canberra. Wood. I don't think we'll hear the losing coach complaining about the refereeing today. Todd.
I'm sure he'll have plenty to say to his players.
Yeah, exactly. I think he'll be blaming his players for this effort. Gaffey, only a few metres out. Canberra looking for their second try. Manly still down to 12 men without Bella sent off. Gale. Meninga on the angle. Still going Mal Meninga. He takes on Iro, the battle of the big men. And Iro manages to roll him back. Good tackle. Help from Hasler too. Waters for the line. Waters has got it down. A reward for Steve Waters' efforts in this match. So they're starting to make the scoreline somewhat respectable. It's 38 points to 10.
This is after a great run here by Mal Meninga. He draws Stevie Walter goes, and it's hooker against hooker. Matt Dunford versus Steve Walters here, and Steve Walters wins.
Des Hasler getting up from the tackle, wasn't able to position himself to help out. And Walters going low and hard. That's the way to go from close to the line. That's a good reward for him.
Here's the replay here. The ball's turned back to Big Mal, and Big Mal, what's the tackle here by Tony Iro as he crunches him back. Little Desi underneath and bang, pushes Big Mal back. From the ensuing play, the ball, Steve Walters just burrows in under the tackle of Matt Dunford.
Steve Walters looking to land a Queensland State of Origin hooking jersey in front of his brother Kerrod. Mal Meninga added the extras. Meninga taking little time with the conversions, just quickly putting them over and getting on with the job. It's 38 points to 12. David Hosking has left the field, getting a well-earned drink. Gale brings it back. That was a tremendous tackle by Iro to stop Meninga. I'm sure we've all seen Meninga knock 3 or 4 players out of his road when he gets that close to the line.
Well, he's certainly a big unit when it comes to that. Mal, he's very hard to stop it. Canberra starting to salvage a little bit of pride. Tony Iro ripping the ball out there.
Ricky Stewart asking the question, saying, wasn't that ripped out after the tackle was completed?
And Warren Canberra duplicating a little bit of Manly's earlier play there with a good angle running in the back line, which set up that try for Walters.
Now here's a Canberra scrum win, and strong running too by Twig.
Penalty's going against Ricky Stewart here as he overdoes it. Cliffy Lyons laying on the tackle player too long, and once again the frustration of Ricky Stewart showing out here, but I think that the penalty could have first went towards Canberra.
Well, I think the referee, as he came back up, said to Ricky Stewart, you leave it to me to do the refereeing. Stewart certainly was in the right technically there because they were hanging on, but the referee wasn't going to let Ricky Stewart take over running the show.
It's a tough penalty on the first tackle.
Certainly was. Turvey. Manly haven't had much of the ball in the last 10 minutes. White. They're only 8 metres out. Manly looking to get to the 40-point mark, and White has lost the ball in the tackle, wrestling with Gary Coyne.
Yeah, once again, we see Gary Coyne coming in here. The tackle's made, but it's not Gary Coyne, it's Steve Walters there, stripping the man of the ball there. So, you know, that could have been a penalty, that one.
And he steps away from O'Connor. And runs away from him now. Good work from Wood. Turned O'Connor inside out. Meninga. Didn't have many runners with him except for Todd. Everybody else was just watching. Steve Walters with another great run from Steve Walters. Comes to Ridge. Ridge makes the tackle, but Steve Walters is playing a tremendous game in a beaten side.
He's one player that can hold his head up when he sits down the room.
Gale kicks for himself. The ball comes off Tuvey. Back to Gale. Hasler keeping it on the toe. He's entitled to pick it up. Now it's play on. It was a rebound off Hasler initially. He didn't play at it. Hasler hurt in the tackle of Barnhill. Or maybe he's just waiting for his players to catch up with him.
That seemed the case, didn't it?
Here's Bourne. Crawls to the 22.
The Canberra players could have been accused of that also.
Lyons, the playmaker, on to Ronson. On it goes now to Lydiard, steps inside beautifully. Lydiard still going. Sits it to Iro, and Iro charges in for the try. Beautiful stepping by David Lydiard. Iro backing up well. 42 points to 12. Still 5 minutes remaining. 50 isn't out of the question. Lyons out to Ronson. Ronson does well there to get it away, but Lydiard stepping here, ducks under one, steps another. Iro there.
This virtually came out of nothing. We have a look here. Cliff line once again drifting across. He picks up David Ronson, who does all the work here. Cuts back in, missed again by Ball. Lydiard cuts back inside Brett Mullins there. Big Mal misses with a close one there as Big Tony Iro backing up there.
Great hands. Manly showing all their skills here to move it wide. Tony Iro finishing it off. Played in the forwards for Graham Lowe at Wigan. Here's David Lydiard, whose career has really taken off again in the last couple of seasons after a disappointing spell following his days at Parramatta. And Tony Iro, well, you think Tony Iro's good. Kevin Iro is even better, and he is side with Manly. Ridge. Trying to make it 8 out of 8. No problems.
Well, they certainly have been tagged.
And it's 44 to 12, so with 5 minutes remaining, Manly can go for 50.
Well, with Kevin Iro coming and Amasi Kalute, possibly, they have been called Mary Warringah and might be justified.
Yeah, well, Darryl Williams is out injured, Matthew Ridge. There are a few New Zealanders there, aren't there? And I'm sure quite a few of the New Zealanders are cheering all the way today. Meninga, short kicks, but O'Connor's awake. And here's trouble. Lyons gets it to, who is it? Lydiard. No, it's not Glenn Lydiard. I should say David Lydiard. It's a replacement. Michael Peachy on the field for Manly. White. Well, what can Canberra look forward to as Lyons tries a little kick through, and they'll regather here with Ridge. Ridge has support. The pass to Lyons just didn't find its mark, and Lyons bangs his hands together.
I thought there was a knock on as Scotty Gale got a hand to that.
That was a try all there for the taking. Plenty of runners. Tuvey was there. Ridge was there. And Lyons just had to take it.
Would have brought up the 50, Warren.
Yep. And here's another chance for Hasler to race away. Chased by Gale. Inside is Peachy, but he can't hang on to it. And so now it's Canberra's ball.
Well, certainly a procession of errors now.
Wood. The defences are starting to open up. All the real determination has gone out of both teams. They're still moving the ball.
There's real obstruction there as Gary Coyne. As Brent Todd here shows the ball to Gary Coyne, and he just dips in behind him. So obstruction against Brett. Have a look at Brett Todd. Shows the ball to Gary Coyne. It didn't infringe a tackle there, impede a tackle at all there. So another 2 points for Matthew Ridge.
That's just to improve his average. As we said, coming into the game, he'd kicked 12 from 14. In comes Ridge, right in front of the posts. And those flags are lifted to the heavens once more. It's 46 points to 12. Only a couple of minutes remaining now.
A very dejected Mal Meninga there.
There's not much to smile about. And Manly have come up trumps today in a big way. Their attacking game has really fallen into place. The changes made by Graham Lowe have worked magic. Cliff Lyons in at 5'8", Tony Iro on the second row, Hasler at lock forward, Tuvey at half-back. All of them have done the job for him. Peachy. Canberra must rue the losses from last season. Lance, Ferguson, O'Sullivan, Collins, Bellamy, Woods, particularly those first four. In fact, before the game, Don Furner was pointing out that he thought probably Johnny Ferguson was the most valuable loss, or vital loss, because of his dashes from dummy half, which used to give the Canberra players time to set their play up.
Well, he would have had to make some today to make up for that 50. What is it?
Here's O'Connor kicking ahead, but the referee's going to call it back. And to the relief of the Canberra players, the siren sounds. They're going to have to think about this one all through tomorrow's other matches and live with it for the rest of this week. 46 points to 12. A superb display by Manly, particularly in that first half. They have smashed the Premiers 46 to 12.
So the Manly Sea Eagles take the 2 points, their 5th straight win, which takes their premiership tally to 10, consolidating their position in the top 5 in the race for the 1991 title.
Canberra came out all fired up to rattle Manly, but the Sea Eagles outmanoeuvred and outplayed them. They scored 7 tries in all, 2 to O'Connor, 2 to Ridge, 2 to Ronson, 1 to Iro. Ridge a superb 9 goals from 9 attempts to give him 26 points for the day's work. For Canberra, Stewart and Walters scored tries. Meninga kicked 2 from 2. Beatson's best went to Des Hasler, and that result leaves Manly in second place. Canberra way down the ladder. Join Arthur Beatson and I on ABC Radio in New South Wales and Queensland this afternoon. We'll be at the match between Easts and Illawarra. And join us again next weekend for Saturday Super League, the match between Newcastle and Illawarra at Newcastle.
Yes, good morning and welcome to Seven's Big League. After a great week for the network, one which has seen us throw our hat back in the rugby league ring, winning the rights to all international matches for the next 3 years. Tremendous news, and we'll talk more about that in a few moments. What happened between Manly, Amosi Koloto and the Sea Eagles? Well, they dropped off their controversial draft conditions this week, but the bottom line is the loophole still exists, and the future of the draft really is on the line if anyone wants to use that loophole. But best of all, Manly yesterday, they were simply outstanding, and we'll be joined by Graham Lowe a little bit later on. First, let's say hello to Rugby League's finest panel, and Paul Vaughton being a lock forward at the moment isn't exactly a happy occupation.
No, Harks, a lot of the lock forwards, Bobby Lindner, Brad Mackay and Brad Clyde have all got injuries, and Billy Moore, yeah, they've all, it's been no luck for the number 13s this year.
It won't help your rep chances?
No, I'll be out for 1 or 2 weeks with a bit of rib damage, but after that I'll be right.
Roy, you're at Steelertown. Good morning, and you were there for Alan Jones's outburst, and speaking his mind.
Yes, I was there for the big. It's certainly vintage Jones, and it certainly beats a losing coach saying few things went against us.
Talk more about that also in a few moments. Steve Mortimer, Ricky Stewart yesterday didn't look himself. You're a former halfback and a halfback who went through a bit of frustration at times. He seemed very aggressive out there.
Very frustrated and very fiery, and we'll talk about that later on in the show.
Yeah, it was one of those matches yesterday. Of course, I mean, 32-0 at half-time. It was all over Red Rover. But the bottom line is that they looked as soon as they got 10 points in front, Manly, that they just weren't going to be caught.
I think it was more of a case of Canberra just dead set. I've never seen them play so bad. They more or less just turned it up, especially that first half. The second half, they got their act together and scored a few points, but Manly were down to 12 men there. But Canberra in that first half were just dreadful. They weren't moving up in the defensive line or anything.
There were a couple of, you know...
There was obviously no talk in defence between them, particularly about 3 or 4 men wide of the ruck, where they just all hung off waiting for somebody else to make the tackle.
What about the influence of Cliffy Lyons? And that was great skills from O'Connor too. Took the pass high and was stepping all in one motion, beat Gary Belcher pointless. Gary Belcher to me looked like he shouldn't have been out in the field. I don't think he was fully fit. But the influence of Lyons, he handled nearly every try, if you can call that handling in this one, but he really did have a superb game. We've just seen the little pass there to Tuvey in the try before. That saw Ridge go over in the corner. Ridge kicked, what was it, 9 from 9?
I can't believe his goal kicking. I mean, he just doesn't miss, does he?
No, you can't give him... I mean, he kicked a couple from the sideline yesterday. You can't give Manly a penalty anywhere inside your own half because Ridge has some chance of kicking it. Here goes Cliffy Lyons again. Beautiful little pass to Tuvey.
He's got the magic hands, Cliffy, but he is the current Test 5'8", and it's going to be a very interesting battle, isn't it? Come State of Origin if Cliffy's up against Wally.
You're talking about Cliffy Lyons always in all those tries there. What about Desi Hasler? What a great game he had too. Just keeps on keeping on. They should go.
Well, I've got to be honest. I watched the game and I thought Desi was my best player. He's one of my favourite players going around, Desi, but he was just in everything, and he just keeps going for 80 minutes. And there he's on the inside there, backing up. And Ridge, get over there, Matt.
Ridge didn't make a mistake all day either. Gee, you know, he's...
Manly's attack is so great in so many different areas. You know, they can attack from the dummy half area, the big forwards hard, the front rowers taking it up. Very clever halves. They've got tremendous ability in the centre. Probably the only area where they lack a little bit in attack is in their back row, running big, strong, hard, mobile running back rowers.
Yeah, of course they've got Ian Roberts is there. He was.
But he plays a lot tighter.
Yeah, of course he does. But let's get on to Canberra. I mean, they've got the post-premiership blues, Roy. I mean, 2 years they won it, and they're just not a shadow of their former selves.
Well, there's one of the reasons you see Gary Belcher there with a knee injury. Now this is a send-off of... Sorry, Roy, but this is a send-off of Martin Bella. It does look a reflex action, but the bottom line is it's high.
How's it a reflex action? He's running straight into him. Yeah. It's not a reflex.
Mate, he just went straight for him. His brain just must have gone off to change down 20 gears or something for a man as bright as Martin.
Consolation try by Ricky Stewart, but 2 things were established yesterday. Manly, I think, are one of the top 3 contenders now for the premiership. That's Penrith and also Brisbane. And Canberra, the communication breakdown is absolutely...
The writing was on the wall for Canberra when they lost those 3 defensive players out of their side. There's no doubt it's the same thing that's happened over at Balmain. The knives are out for the coach Sheens and Jones, but the fact is that they've lost those high defensive work rate forwards, the Dean Lancers, the Junior Pierces.
That's right.
Like that.
And also they've lost those players. If you look at Chrissy O'Sullivan, but Johnny Ferguson too. The amount of work Ferguson used to do running the ball out from his own line. Like when if you pin Canberra in deep with a kick, usually Ferguson would make 15, 20 metres,
allowing all those blokes to come back on side.
Don't underestimate Chrissy O'Sullivan. You just mentioned
he's another
before.
defender.
He's been a terrific stalwart for Canberra, particularly over the successful years over the last 3 or 4.
For some reason, and I don't know why it is, Fatty might be able to tell us why. I seem to think that from the mid-80s on, sides that lose high work rate back rowers seem to be losing more than if you lose any other position on the field. I noticed at St George when we lost O'Grady. And then each club that seems to lose their high work rate mobile back rowers tends to suffer a decline in the next year.
And that's exactly what Manly have got at the moment in their back row too. They do have those high work rate players.
Of course they do. Well, they are the main goers in the side. They're the ones who hold the side together when things are going tough. When the big plays aren't coming off with your Lionses and your O'Connors, when they're not coming off, it's your high work rate players who hold the side together until the other things start to come.
And of course, when you were at Manly, it was a high work rate back rower. Look what's happening with Manly. When things didn't work out at Eastern Suburbs last year, look what happened. But look what's happening at Eastern Suburbs this year, and look what might happen today with you out.
East 20, Illawarra and Ill.
Yeah, well, the thing is too, Manly play, we'll just talk quickly about Manly's defence. Manly play that sort of swarming defence with very little as far as cover. Tuvey's quite often in the front line.
Yeah,
there's never a chip. I made the point before we came on air that if Cliff Lyons played against Manly, He'd gap them. If a Cliff Lyons style of player running across field, turning it back inside, chipping over the top, that sort of stuff.
Manly are playing a 12-man front line. I mean, they've got the 2 markers up, the wingers are up, so the 12 men are there and the fullback's back. And to get round that, you need a lot of skill to get round that, chipping over the top and whatever, and the other sides just aren't doing it. Well, Manly are just going too well.
It's Graham Lowe's influence. There's a lot more steel in the defence than years gone by in the Manly side.
But still, they were still just throwing it straight out to the flanks. It looked like a strange tactic from Canberra. They weren't trying anything. Ricky Stewart wasn't scheming the way he should have been. Let's have a look at the weekend results. Of course, we kicked off on Friday night with the match up in Darwin. Penrith 14-0 over Balmain, having led 2-0 at half-time and really scooted away in the last 15 minutes or so. A lot of steel in that Balmain performance. There was none in the Canberra performance yesterday, 32-0 at half-time. And Manly going on for a 46-12 win, of course, playing the last 20 minutes or so a man short yesterday at Bruce Stadium. Today, Cronulla take on South at Caltex. Brisbane beat the Gold Coast at Lang Park. North Sydney play St George at North Sydney Oval in the match of the day. The game will be out for 2GB this afternoon. Parramatta and Western Suburbs at Parramatta Stadium. Canterbury and Newcastle at Belmore. And East and Illawarra at the Sydney Football Stadium. We'll take a break. Be back with Graham Lowe.
Across the paddock, straightens. O'Connor's got support inside. O'Connor doesn't need anybody. What a sensational effort from Michael O'Connor.
The best thing, in my opinion, that's happened in rugby league in recent weeks was the brilliant try Michael O'Connor scored against St George, showing speed, elusiveness, skill, things that people come along to watch. And yet all this drama and rubbish about footballs, draft, interchange, referees, all that's in the way. Those issues should not take over the issues of the game, and that's what annoys me.
Well, they scored 46 points yesterday, and certainly that was the biggest issue down there at Bruce Stadium. And interestingly enough, the week before, when O'Connor scored that try and Manly beat St George, Graham Lowe actually apologised for the way Manly had been playing. He said, "I want to apologise to our supporters for playing that way." Was there a conscious effort yesterday to not be the side that solely has the best defensive record in the competition, to be the side that can go out and score points and play the way Manly always has done? Well, we'll ask the coach. He's there now. Graham, good morning.
Good morning, John.
A lot of talk in your camp yesterday that you wanted to prove a point about some attacking football. You certainly did that.
Well, it was basically that obviously our defence had been quite good in all these early games, but probably due to my fault, especially when we played St George, I thought I'd come up with a genius idea to beat St George, but which meant running from the dummy half and whatnot with our little blokes, and the first guy ran away and got flattened, the second guy ran away and got flattened, and so I said to them at half-time, I said, "Well, thanks very much, fellas. You've done exactly what I've asked, but unfortunately the idea I gave you was dumb. Now we've got to try and get back on the track again," and it was too late, but luckily we did win the match. But we did consciously go to Canberra hoping to show that we could actually outplay them, because we saw it as a little bit of a turning point this season.
Yeah, because you'd been a side, I think you'd surrendered 8 points a game against you before the Canberra match, but you've been winning matches basically through that sort of defence.
Yeah, well, I don't think we've been playing negative, but possibly we were probably putting too much emphasis on trying to stop the opposition rather than share it up, stopping them and scoring ourselves. All right, well, I'm going to really give you the dirts after what you said coming out of the break then from an interview this week. Talk about the draft. Why did you drop off on the conditions? You didn't want a legal battle, is that why? Well, I think John Quayle made it clear to us that if we had have insisted that they went in the form in which they were written out, they just wouldn't be accepted. The forms, the applications wouldn't be accepted. So it was as simple as that. Now we're in a situation where we have to go to appeal, and Mosey has returned the letter last week, and it's been lodged with the New South Wales Rugby League, and we're all confident that Mosey will come up trumps in it. So do you think legally, Graham, last word on this issue, do you think legally the loophole is still there, and had it been maybe, I don't know, November of last year when you had time to fight a legal battle, that clubs will use it in the future and the draft would therefore be out the window? Well, I don't know if other clubs will use it, but... would you? Well, put it this way, Steve Martin has made it clear that he was well within the rules doing what North Sydney did, and I'm sure we'll be well within the rules doing what we're doing.
Graham, I agree with you that the real game is one on the field, but nevertheless the mongrel questions have to be asked. The question is, do you think that in view of Manly's record of having bought players from so many clubs in the past, that you are open to the charge of hypocrisy, that you would suggest that North Sydney shouldn't be taking one of your players?
Oh, undoubtedly, Roy. You know, history plays a big part in everything we do, and especially sport. People remember. You know, they do remember, and those, you know, rugby league supporters are no different to anyone else. They have got long memories, but, you know, that two rights don't make a wrong, and we'll just try and set about showing that, you know, those sort of things are part of the past and don't happen now.
Well, right into the present, as far as your football's concerned, it's outstanding. What does it worry you from time to time that you might get a chip over the top into that little area there, particularly early in the tackle count, where you don't have defenders?
Well, especially if everyone's, you know, listening to Channel 7 on a Sunday morning, it does, because the same thing gets brought up the whole time. But no, it does get tried occasionally, and we believe we've, you know, we try and anticipate that happening, and you know, if it works, it works, and if it does, well, as I said, we try and anticipate that, and I'm sure that we'll be able to cover it, you know, in the event of it happening.
Mm-hmm. Turvey.
Graham, Steve Mortimer here, mate. Just wearing another cap, State of Origin's coming up very soon. There's been a lot of talk or speculation that Wally Lewis may play lock and Kevin Walters may play 5'8". Do you want to shed some light on that?
Well, I think that, you know, both players, you're talking about great players. Kevin Walters has been in very good form this year, and he certainly played well when I've seen him, and Wally played well when I saw him, you know, when we played the Gold Coast. But, you know, I think the important thing when you're looking at the composition of a football team is that the jumpers fit everybody. I'm sure everyone will get a jumper in the washout.
Oh, are you getting splinters sitting on that fence there, Graham?
No.
Because Fatty's listening.
Yeah, no, well, Fatty's another one. Actually, he's mucked up in the afternoon because I was hoping to go along and watch that red hair running all over the park this afternoon, but he's having a rest.
Yeah, Graham, how much actual influence will you have in the selection of the side? You've got 3 selectors, but will you be advising them?
Well, you know, I have to, you know, admit, Paul, that I haven't had the opportunity to see anywhere near the players that they are able to see, and I'm new to the job, and, you know, they're men of vast experience, and I'm sure that that they'll listen to what I've got to say exactly the same as I'll listen to what they've got to say, and whatever happens, we'll come up with a team that we all agree on, I'm sure.
Graham, if you could just stand by for a couple of moments. I know you've got a monitor out there, and we're going to have a look at your former club, because if you can so much, you'd like to buy half the side. Graham, mate, if you got into a bidding war with them, and under the salary cap conditions here, they could buy and sell Manly.
Oh, undoubtedly. That's why we've made it very clear right from the outset that
you only want quarter of the side.
No, well, I think we've got the bloke that we set out for, and even that was difficult because there's no way in the world we could match dollar for dollar with Wigan, but, you know, we're going to try and sell the Manly district in the Australian off-season to Kevin, and I'm sure that'll help his judgment when it comes to whether he stays or not.
Now, Graham, just finally, a word on Canberra. I know coaches don't like talking about their opposition. You've got to play them again later this year, but they really are struggling.
Well, they are, but, you know, I think they hit us when we were just on fire yesterday, undoubtedly, and we went there knowing that they are the champions, and as far as I'm concerned, despite the result of yesterday, they are still the champions, and they are still the club that you've got to beat if you want to be champions yourselves.
All right, Graham, well, thanks for joining us, and lots of luck.
Thanks very much, John.
Here's Graham Lowe on Seven's Big League. We'll take a break, be back with more in just a moment.
Score. Lowry aiming for Tuvey, but clocking teammate Barnhill.
Here's another swinging arm.
Roberts' aim was perfect.
Oh, big hit from...
But it was Canberra doing all the defending, and it wasn't long before they fell apart out wide.
Lyons holds it up for Tuvey. Tuvey looking for support, gets it away to O'Connor. O'Connor steps through one tackle, and O'Connor comes around to score the try.
It was the beginning of an annihilation. Manly's backs cut the Premiers to bits. Matt Ridge keeping this week's promise to involve himself more in the attack. The Sea Eagles led 14-0. Canberra looked like yesterday's outfit, but that takes nothing away from the very definite arrival of Manly as a real premiership threat.
O'Connor comes around for his second try.
Manly's ball work was superb. 5 first-half tries and 3 in 8 minutes took them to a 32-0 lead at the break. Shortly afterwards, the Sea Eagles put a full stop on the outcome. Canberra's attempts at softening the scoreline mostly misfired, a problem not helped by Belcher's absence. This tackle by Bella left Brent Todd unharmed, but will result in a visit to the judiciary.